and welcome to Curdcast, the podcast for people who like to eat cheese. I'm your host, Jen Mason, and with me today, as always, is my favorite co-host ever, Julie Faith Van Balzer. Hello, Julie. How are you today?
Hungry.
Excellent. Well, we've got something to take care of that. So Julie and I today are going to talk about our curdboxFLEX box. This is our Cheese in Paradise box, and as you might have heard at the beginning, I'm really excited about this one, and we can talk a little bit more about why I get excited or not. If you're new to this podcast, we do this for every box that we send out, and you can go to curdbox.com. I got my handy little ticker here that's going to show you curdbox.com, and you can get your own box. We have two different kinds of boxes. You can either get the curdboxFLEX, which is the one we're talking about today. It has no nuts, no gluten, and it's vegetarian, and super excited to be offering this one. We just started this one in November, and it's for all of our friends who are tired of like always having to settle for only eating half of what's offered in a box or something. Our other box is gluten full, sometimes has meat, sometimes has non-vegetarian cheese, and has nuts in it occasionally as well. So we have those two boxes. You can check that out. But Julie and I are going to eat through the box, talk about different things. I'm going to tell Julie all about what we've got in this box, and she's going to tell me if I did a good job or not. So let's get started. So we're going to start with, well, I cut mine into a great big triangle, the Wensleydale, the sort of lightest colored one. So this cheese comes out of England. And you may know it from a Wallace and Gromit skit, also in a Monty Python cheese store skit. This was originally the base for a blue cheese. And things changed. In the 1990s, the sales of Wensleydale was going down so much. But it ended up on Wallace and Gromit, and they even made their own Wallace and Gromit Wensleydale. And sales shot up, and Wensleydale has been around happily ever since then. So this is a really interesting cheese. It's got an interesting texture, and you can kind of imagine what this would taste like if it was a blue cheese. It would get much saltier. And you sort of round out the edges of it, but it's got the brightness that a blue cheese would also need. But it is not blue. Anybody who's like, oh no, it's a blue cheese, it is not blue at all. There is
super mild. I mean, the thing about it that's so interesting to me is it doesn't taste like any cheese that I can remember tasting. The closest thing that I can say that it calls up for me is yogurt, because it has some of that like acid of unsweetened yogurt, and it also is like surprisingly creamy, although it's crumbly.
Yeah, right. So it is. So it's very crumbly, and this would be fantastic. So, and it's like yogurt plus salt. So it does have a salted taste to it. So it's got a full round flavor to it. But this would be great crumbled in salad, I think. Anything you might like crumble like a feta in, but maybe feta is too salty for you, or I think this could be really interesting that way as too. And it has that creamy taste, but it is definitely crumbly. Like you can feel like I could easily crumble this in a salad.
The texture is similar to a feta, I feel like, but there's this tang that I just keep coming back to, that so yogurty or fruity, or it's hard to explain it, but really interesting cheese.
Yeah.
Surprising.
So I'm glad you were surprised by it. And it seems like you're surprised in a good way. So that's good. And this one is a 10-month-old cheese. And like I said, from England. We're now going to move to the Netherlands, and we're going to have our aged Gouda. Our box is no stranger to aged Goudas. We try all sorts of them here. This one is Artikas, ARTIKAAS. Going totally different place now.
It's impolite to have an orgasm in public. Oh my God, this is good.
It's very good.
Oh my God.
And I hope if people are eating along with us that they've let it sit out at room temperature, because the more you do, the more delicious it is.
It's got those crystals. It's got the flavor. It's complex. It is like, I don't want to share this cheese.
Yeah.
I love this cheese. It's
and it
so
has like
good.
a warm flavor to it, even though it is not warm. It's not hot at all, but there's like it's almost been toasted. But
yeah. I don't know if it's the crystals too add to that, where there's like a moment of crunch when you bite into it. That's so good. And I can imagine this cheese, I mean, obviously like all sorts of jams, jellies, apples, like fruit of all kinds, grapes, like it's just going to pair so beautifully. I feel like this cheese, like I need to write down the name because it's going to be a staple of the thing I put on a cheese plate. I love it.
Yeah, it's great. Now this one is 36 months old. So, and one day we're going to have to try to do like just a Gouda box of the same Gouda at 3 very different ages, so people can really understand this. We've done it before with Manchego, but I'm thinking now maybe we need to do it with some Gouda.
What a Gouda idea.
Thank you very much. I love a good pun. But yeah, so this one is aged, and the more cheese ages, the harder it gets, the more intense the flavor is. You don't want to take a bad cheese and age it because it just intensify how bad it is. But a good cheese gets aged for a long time. Yeah, and this one is made, like I said, by Articos. They work with like 800 small scale farmers in this company. And make a bunch of different cheeses. And they've been around since like 2010. They merged and formed this new line of cheese. But it's great. They age these guys on pine boards, sort of the old style way of doing it. They're like really focused on sustainability and animal welfare. But kind of like all of the cheeses we include, usually the farmers make a point of saying that it's what happens in the specialty cheese world, and why these cheeses cost more than just like the commodity cheeses that we get at the store, which are fine for their own thing. But like when you want to enjoy cheese for cheese's sake, you need some good stuff. So next one is has a lovely rind on this. When you want to eat this rind, it is what makes this cheese so special. So this is Big John Cajun by Beehive Cheese. So we've had Beehive cheeses in here before. All of these cheeses, because we're in this box, use a vegetarian rennet. So they either use something that's called microbial rennet, which is created, or they use rennet from a thistle. So this one, they basically make one cheddar, and then they turn it into a bunch of different things. So we've tried in the past their Barely Buzzed and Tea Hive, Sea Hive, which is honey and sea salt. This one has, it's got celery salt. Let me see, I wrote it down. Mix of garlic, celery salt, and cayenne. So the cheese itself is a beautiful, everybody would love it cheddar, made in Utah. Oh my goodness.
So it's the rind that has the kick, because I just had a piece that has no rind. And it's very mild and easy, but the rind has the cayenne.
Yep. And because you're having it with cheese, the kick. That's why spicy and cheese go well together. You know, because dairy calms down the heat. It's like you're eating a bowl of soup or chili or something and having cheese at the same time. It's a really great combination.
Yeah, it's such an interesting idea that I never thought of, because like with my son, whenever he eats something hot, we're always like, drink milk, but like if you have the milk with
right
it,
there, then you're fine. You're only in trouble if you lick it,
right? But it's also that really nice kind of spice burn where like I can feel it sort of like in my throat, but it doesn't make my tongue not able to taste things more. Right? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Kind of elevates without eliminating. I hate eating spicy food that I now can't taste anything. Like I'm just not into that kind of pain.
Yeah. Right.
So I want to just take a break before we go into the pairings, because we talked at the beginning of the podcast and said like I was really looking forward to this. Well, why? So these were all really great cheeses, but you know, we've had aged Gouda before, and we've had other Beehives. I wanted something that had some spice, because to me, when I think tropical, I might be thinking, you know, Jamaica and maybe some jerk chicken, or I might be in the Bahamas, or I might be like, there's a lot of regions that go tropical. but sometimes I think spicy, sometimes I think bright and tangy, you know, like thinking of like the fruity drinks you can get. You know, the fruit in general is different than we get, you know, what their local fruit is much different than what our local fruit is. So the cheeses are really great and are always the stars of our boxes. And what we did with those is just sort of paired something that was, we had one spicy one tangy one, and I would say our Gouda is fantastic, but I hate to say like it's the neutral one. It's going to go with all the stuff we pair it with. And then what I'm really excited about is to get people thinking differently and think passion fruit, guava, and jackfruit, chili, lime. So that's what we're going to pair all these cheeses with. So we're going to start
the other thing that occurs to me is that spice isn't something I normally think about including on a cheese plate. Like I think of salty things, I think of crunchy things, I think of sweet things. But for some reason, I never think of like, what's a hot sauce or what's a spicy thing that would go out with this cheese. So that's a really interesting, like way of opening up your sort of flavor profiles.
And if you're nervous about it, when we get to the jackfruit, which is going to be the last one we try, that one's a sweet and spicy. So going sweet and spicy is sometimes a way for people who aren't, you know, I grew up in the Midwest. So for all my Midwesterners out there where ketchup is a spicy condiment, you know, go with something that's sweet and spicy because it'll make it a little easier for you to warm up to. And then you're also having it with cheese. So that's going to just cool everything down. So, you know, I'm not saying like you should throw buffalo sauce on all these things, but let's start with our crackers. So these are my favorite one of my favorite crackers in the whole world, and it just happens to be gluten-free. So it's perfect for this box. And I knew we were going to have this when we created the curdboxFLEX. I knew we were going to have this guava cracker. It's just so amazing how fruity this cracker can taste, and it is so thin but still, so I'm holding it for the people watching on video, it is so thin but it is so crisp. Like sometimes there are a lot of thin crackers on the market which are great, but when you try to spread like cheese on them or eat them with cheese, like you take a bite and the whole thing falls apart, and you're balancing a wine glass or a soda glass and your crackers breaking off, and it's not pleasant. But
these feel really like sort of like ice cream cone-ish. Meaning, you know how like an ice cream cone is like a cracker and a cookie, but not really a cookie, but not really a cracker. Like this has that kind of feeling to me.
Yeah, it's got that it's super crisp. It's just such a nice texture. I absolutely love these crackers. And every time we give them to people, when we have them at our store, people are like, I'm going to have a bag now all to myself and not share them. They're really easy to love. So there's our guava in the form of a cracker. The next thing we have, and I've cut mine into little slices here, is a passion fruit paste. And I love the little seeds in here because they give a crunch, but it's not like raspberry seed kind of crunch. It's nice. It almost matches the crunch in our cheese, right?
It feels almost like a poppy seed crunch kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. But it's, you know, you were talking about, you didn't think about heat before, but the salt, fat, acid, crunch, smooth, creamy. That's what really when we can't put our finger on what it is that we like so much, it's usually because we've got multiple things going on and our brain is not bored and our palate is not bored. So I love that one. This is made by Maui Fruit Jewels. Oh, and I forgot to tell you about Craze, our crackers. So those guys making Craze are just fantastic. They make a bunch of different kinds. They will definitely be in this box again in a different way. They're sort of meant to capture the essence of an arepa, which is a corn cake, sort of cross between cornbread and English muffin, right? But they took it and said, like, how do we turn that into a cracker? And I love innovation when somebody's like, how do I take something I love and change it to be another thing I love? Or how do I take something that isn't very good and I make it great? Or I love that. So I love that about these guys. They're based in Miami. And basically This was an architect. His name is Leo, and in 1998, he basically changed paths and started making these crazy crackers. And I'm so glad that he did, because we do love them, and they're so easy to love, and you don't feel like you're eating gluten-free. You really do just enjoy the cracker. The passion fruit paste, and this, for anybody else who's ever had membrillo paste or quince paste, is the same idea. It's like think of a very, very thick jam jelly. And their location is in Hawaii. They use fresh fruit right there in Hawaii, and they make a bunch of different products. They make a new shortbread we can't put in this box, but I'm hoping to get in our other box at some point. This is co-founded by a couple who sort of they fell in love and wanted to share this passion for running, and then they moved, and it's a great story. But basically, it's just another couple out there following their passion, even though it meant changing jobs and changing places to live and all that stuff. But they're making a beautiful product, and they moved to Maui in 2012. They're making this beautiful items. Oh, and this is one of those things. So they have a bunch of different flavors. But again, if you want to include a little heat, they do make some that are fruit with a little bit of heat in it. So you can imagine this really sweet treat with that just little bite of heat. Makes it fantastic. Okay, so our last one is our jackfruit chews. So have you had jackfruit before?
I have. I've had jackfruit tacos.
I've never had jackfruit as a jerky before. I have had it as sort of a meat substitute. And these are fun because they really do feel like grown-up fruit leather. And at first you're like, oh, yummy, sweet, chewy. I'm like a grown-up having a fruit chew, and then the spice comes in a little bit.
I think the spice hits you right away on the tip of your tongue. Like, I taste spice way more than sweet.
Maybe I'm chewing mine differently. And now I'm getting some heat in there. This is, I think, the interesting thing is that this is the spiciest thing in our box, is the sweet fruit. And I encourage people, if they've never tried the jackfruit, to Google it and take a look at the picture. It's a very interesting looking fruit, but like the fact that it can be substituted in things, you know, in place of a meat, and it takes like flavoring. I mean, as you can tell, like this is super flavorful fruit, you know, dried fruit jerky, and but it really does take like marinades well and stuff like that. So it's an interesting thing for people to try otherwise. But so yeah, that is our spice. I think it's kind of funny that the spiciest thing in our box is our fruit. You don't usually think of fruit and spice together, but it's time to pair things together. You have a quizzical look on your face. What are you thinking of trying first?
Well, I'm just thinking, because I was really trying to think what the spice would pair with. And I'm actually thinking that is it the Wensleydale? That is so like soft and neutral that it might be the best pair with the jackfruit.
Yeah.
Again, now that you've turned me on to this idea of like spice on a cheese plate, I'm like, but what pairs with spice? So I'm gonna try that little duo.
Wow, it really cuts that heat out.
Yeah, it does.
Like I can now feel the heat, but I can't taste the heat.
Amazingly, it cuts it out.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's like it turned the cheese into a new flavor.
Well,
very
thinking sort of along related lines, I'm thinking about taking the Big John that has the spicy rind and pairing it with some of the what is it, like a gelée? What are we calling it?
Paste? It's a fruit paste. It's the passion fruit paste. Yep.
Because that feels like the spice and the sweet.
I'm doing the same thing, but with a cracker because I can.
That is a really nice combo. Kind of like a perfect bite feeling.
Yeah. Again, the flavor on that cheese has so much umami in it. And then you layer something sweet on top of it. It's your brain just doesn't kind of know what to do with it. For those of you who are new to like this box and what we're doing and what we're thinking, so You don't have to put two things in your mouth at the same time like we do. We've been known to dip our cheese in other cheese. We've known to put two cheeses together and make a cheese sandwich. But what we want you to think about is, and the whole reason we do Curd Box is for you to stop eating boring. Like, this is kind of exciting and just sort of a sitting down eating. Like, how often do you sit down and like go, oh, I really like that bite. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this. We don't do that so much. We might like sit down with a meal and go, wow, that was really great. But we really think of our boxes as a time for discovery and having fun and seeing things you like and things you don't like. Hopefully you always like everything. Seeing what you like better than the person who you're sharing it with. Yeah, lots of interesting things. What else have you tried, Julie?
You really changed. Like, I think the thing for me about Curd Box and what I've learned about cheese in the time that we've been doing this is that you can truly transform the flavor of something by what you pair it with, both positively and negatively.
Right.
And it's like,
exactly.
It's a really good reminder to me that like you can, you have to think sort of thoughtfully about what you put together, and you can make things work for you and all that kind of stuff. I even think, you know, today I don't have water, I have soda, and it is changing sort of the palate cleansing, right? Because it's sweet instead of neutral.
Are you drinking a Diet Coke?
I might be.
So I haven't heard this. I mean, I've heard this. I haven't proven that it's true, but I have heard that one of the things that you can use as a taste palate cleanser is Diet Coke. The person who told me this did not take, it wasn't like Coke and this person just drank Diet Coke. Like, I was told it makes a good palate cleanser. It's got bubbles. Bubbles in general are a good palate cleanser for cheeses.
Well, I'll feel less guilty about drinking my Diet Coke then.
Do not. We're not sponsored, but yeah, it's an interesting thing, you know, and like sometimes when you're doing tastings, they have you, they'll have like a little cup of coffee beans to smell so that you can like sort of cleanse your nasal palate.
Olfactory palate.
Yeah, Diet Coke, interesting. So
the Gouda, you're right about it, is good with everything. Like the Gouda goes with like your finger. The Gouda goes with everything.
Yeah, you just have to stop chewing, you know, when you get to your hand. Yeah, I liked it with the paste, and I didn't have the cracker with it. And it is such a crunchy bite with the passion fruit seeds and the little tyrosine crystals. That's the little crystals in the inside the Gouda, and it was just like this fun crunchy bite. Reminds me of like the cheese version of sushi with roe on top. So it's really, really interesting there. But I feel like, you know, if you could put some like good steel drum music on and enjoy this box, if we're getting ready to have some snow here. This again will be a box that repeats every 6 months. So if you missed it now, it will repeat in 6 months. Our Flex box, we have 6 different boxes, and they cycle back around. But right now we're expecting 8 to 12 inches of snow, and I'm going to put some steel drum on and eat the rest of my box in between shoveling snow, and see if I can't warm up better that way.
I just did jackfruit with the paste. That's an interesting mix.
Super fruity.
Super fruity.
Yeah. Yeah, the jackfruit is nice. And the interesting thing with the jackfruit is this way, as a jerky, it is really chewy. It is you can't just like eat it all. Like it's a slow food kind of thing. And gives you time. The heat cleanses the palate and puts something else in. But yeah, I think this, I don't know, you tell me, do you think this feels like a tropical like little getaway for you?
It does. It's not like, and what I like about it is it's not so spot on. Like, here's a banana and
they do make banana Gouda, and I did not.
They make banana anyway.
Yeah.
Regardless, I like that it's like it's there, and I get it, but it's not like boom on the nose. It's more subtle and sort of fun. And you've twisted my brain with this whole spice thing. Now I'm going through like all sorts of different kinds of ways that I've just never thought of incorporating spice into a cheese plate.
Well, there you have it, folks. Go try some heat with your cheese plate. sign up for your curd box. But before we go, before we sign off for this one, I just want to share our where you can find people. So one, let's start with Julie. You can find Julie at What Julie Ate, and our Wensleydale you can find at Wensleydale_creamery. You can find Artikos Gouda, Gouda at Artikos Gouda. Again, that's ARTIKAAS Gouda. Our Big John's Cajun comes from at Beehive Cheese. Those really great crackers are at Go Craze, CRAIZE. Our passion fruit paste comes from our friends at Maui Fruit Jewels. And our jackfruit chews, which by the way are made in Uganda. When's the last time you had something from Uganda? You're welcome. And so go check out what a jackfruit is. Go try it on a menu, try it in tacos. But you can find them at Amazi Foods, AMAZI Foods. You can see us at the bottom of your screen if you're watching this on video. You can find us at Curdbox, but also get your own Curdbox at curdbox.com. We have new boxes every month, and Julie, I can't wait to talk to you next month so I can show you what we've got in store for that. So thanks everybody for watching, and thanks Julie for eating cheese with me again.
Anytime.